here. You can see all the plantings around this house that's boarded up. They're just blowing in the wind. Some of the sea foam here coming from the ocean right now. It has been high tide here, the water lapping against the seawall here. Not dealing with too much rain. We're getting a few sprinkles right now, but really it's a mist coming off of the ocean. I want to point out, maybe we can on the other side of this garage here, the stress that the wind is causing on some of these trees. For the last several hours, they have just been pushed in one direction. And down this roadway here, there's a big branch that's already come down. It took a telephone wire down with it. And they're reporting intermittent power outages here in Marion. There's some isolated power outages in the area, but as the wind continues, you can see the stress it's putting on these trees. One tree already giving way here. The power lines are still up, but they are waving in the wind here. And if you look at the weather vane on top of the garage here, you can see just how gusty it is as that whale spins around from east to west to south to north, all over the place. But you really have to keep yourself planted out here. There are some people who are staying here on the island. This is Planting Island. They're riding out the storm. Some people have boarded up their homes. Others staying here, riding out this storm, saying that they had lived through Bob. They say that this is essentially kind of what Bob looked like. Bob was a bit worse. Closed down the causeway getting out here to the island because it was covered with water. That is the big concern as the day goes on. The storm surge as Irene, which is, sorry, getting blown away here, as Irene gets a little closer. And you can see the ocean at this hour is still quite angry.
John, if you can hear us, speaking of Bob, a lot of people, who remember it, and it's a huge boating community down there. People really needed to secure their boats down there, so they didn't see what happened with Bob, where boats were, strewn all across, different streets there.
I think you asked me a question about boats, Bianca. My earpiece flew out of my ear, but that is a concern just on the other side of here, in a bay, just on the other side of this island. There's some boats there, and yes, they are knocking around some people who left their boats in there. Others did pull their boats out last week, which is probably the best idea, because when you have these kinds of winds, the boats will knock into each other. If they're moored next to a dock, knocking into the docks break apart, a lot of damage to the boats.
John, we're going to be talking to National Grid in just a little bit in terms of the number of outages they have, but you did report on quite a few outages in your area. Have you seen any of the repair crews?
They're actually, I just talked to the police department, Randy, and they're basically isolated power outages here. What people are reporting is flickering in their lights here on the island because the wires, as you can see, it's moving me around. The wind is moving the wires around. So they're maybe losing power for a minute or two. It's coming back. Even shorter durations than that. But the police do report that there are a couple homes here without power. And the problem right now, we're getting some rain and also some sand and rocks coming from the beach down here, so that's really doing a number on my face, but also to the sides of some of these houses. If you're not boarded up, you could easily get a little pebble through your window, and I tell you, it does hurt when it slams against you.
All right, John, I think you're saying, give me a break here for a moment, between the wind and the rain.
Yeah, a little bit of facial on that one side of the face.
So there's the scene right now in Marion. Definitely intense there. And Harvey, I mean, this is what we're dealing with. Tropical storm Irene here, definitely bearing down right now.
And will be for a while, huh?
Absolutely. We're now into the time of peak winds, but it's going to go on for a number of hours. The actual storm did make landfall right around Coney Island, so now it will be moving into southwest Connecticut and western New England, and it's no longer being called a hurricane, but it's very borderline right now, tropical storm, strong tropical storm, minimal hurricane. But obviously, as it passes farther north, the pressure is filling ever so slowly. But it's still a powerful storm, and obviously, when you see the wind that's going on, I mean, the storm's over here. You're seeing reports from the Vineyard over here, and that lets you know how large the storm is. I mean, that's a good couple of hundred miles away. But like we've been saying, the tropical storm force winds extend out a good 250 miles to the east of the center. And remember, because it's a counterclockwise flow, the wind comes up this way, off the water, unimpeded, and that's why you're seeing such strong winds in those locations. That's going to continue really through the afternoon. Here's a satellite shot showing you the storm as it just makes its landfall and continues to move on up. Now, we are in some downpours, which JC will show you in a moment. They're not going to last all day long, but the wind is going to last all day long. All right, and as for storm damage, here's an example now of some of the damage that's being reported to us. You see in New Bedford, Marion, Fairhaven, and that's where we've seen some of the strongest winds. So it's not surprising that we're seeing it in those areas. Okay, that's because that's where the wind has been the strongest, and we've been able to show that to you when we show you the peak gusts. And as you're watching me, you're also seeing just how strong the wind is on the other side of the picture here. Here are the wind gusts, 58 miles per hour for Taunton, 58 miles per hour for Providence. These are the peak gusts within the last hour. Obviously, gusts like this are enough to do damage, and it has done so. You know, there are some power outages, there are some trees down, and some wires are down as well from the storm. Yes, a strong tropical storm can do that. It's not going to be as widespread a situation as when you're dealing with a hurricane. And we also still have a tornado watch in effect, as you can see, for parts of southern Rhode Island here. So we have to follow that situation as well. Now let's get into the rainfall part of this, and let's check back with JC.
Harvey, just got an update from Natick. We have 4.24 inches there. So once again, you know, the heavy rain is contributing to weakening some of those root bases on the trees, and that has contributed to the numerous trees down that we have widespread across the area. If we take a look at our live Doppler radar, you can see there's one strip of very heavy rain that right now extends from about Fitchburg, and I'll get into this area here, all the way down towards Taunton. So here's this line, Fitchburg, just across the Mass Pike at 495 down through Franklin. In this band, we have reported wind gusts of 55 to 65 miles per hour. What happens? The rain helps to mix down some of the stronger winds. So places like Marlborough, Hopkinton, Holliston, Medway getting deluged with very heavy rain. Waltham and Newton as well. Boston, you're in some of the heavier rain, but not the substantial rain, which is just a little bit to your west. But everybody really is starting to see some pretty heavy rain that is pinwheeling, by the way, in from the southeast to the northwest. The storm is centered right over Manhattan right now, and it is a tropical storm, and it is moving quickly to the north-northeast at 26 miles per hour. If we go over to our other weather computer, you can see some of the rainfall totals. Now again, Natick just came in higher than the 3.4. It's now up over 4 inches. I know these, the way we're showing it now, it's very difficult to see the numbers, so let me read them to you. Milford 4.71, Uxbridge 3.74, Melrose 2.63, North Brookfield 5.75 inches. You no doubt will be on the high end of close to 7, if not more so, inches of rainfall. Spencer 2.57, Wakefield 2.48, Wellesley 2.37, Watertown has more than 2.25, and Peabody about 2.25. And some of these reports are 1 to 2 hours old, so we will be updating those, and I expect those will be over 3 inches. This is the potential rainfall that you just saw. The highest amounts will be in the western part of the state. If we can put that weather computer back up, that's weather computer 1. You can see the 5 to 10 inches, the swath of the heaviest rainfall. We're getting numerous reports of trees down throughout the Connecticut River Valley area, and undoubtedly it is because of the heavy rain that is combining with some strong wind gusts. Thankfully, the heaviest bands of rain will start to wind down in the very early hours of the afternoon. We will get into the drier slot of air, and we'll start to really just see scattered showers. Not the intensity that we're seeing right now, but we still have a couple of more hours of the heavy rain that's moving in. The drier air will then move in, but we'll still have strong wind gusts, and that will contribute itself to its own problems with, again, more wires and trees down, and also contributing to the storm surge. So the evening high tide, as Harvey was talking about, will need to be monitored as well. Bianca and Randy, back to you.
All right, JC and Harvey, thank you.
Of course, this is going to be a long day for many folks, and we also want to remind you, BostonChannel.com also has important information for you. We know shelters have been opened on the Cape and regional ones across our state. Also, you can call 211 if you need more information on that, if you do need to get help at some point throughout the day if you have lost power.
Yeah, I think there were about 100 people in a shelter last night on the Cape. Let's go to the Red Cross's Donna Morrissey. Donna, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing great, thank you.
What's the Red Cross doing today?
Well, we've opened about 20 shelters across Massachusetts. We pre-positioned volunteers, supplies, and emergency response vehicles so that we're ready to go as soon as the brunt of the storm passes us by. We had a couple hundred people in the shelters. I was in one on Cape Cod last night, and we had about 50 teenagers who were evacuated from a football camp. They came to the welcome arms of the Red Cross, and they're going to stay there at least through tomorrow.
And of course, with people losing their power, you could get people coming in much later.
We certainly could. The shelters are open. We want people to come on in. If they go to redcross.org, they can find out where there's a shelter near them. We do encourage them, if they're coming down, to bring extra clothing, pillows, blankets, any prescriptions that they need. If they have children and infants, they should bring things like diapers and formulas. The people are wonderful. I can tell you, I was in the shelter last night, and people are really showing a great sense of community spirit. There's also a secure website on redcross.org called Safe and Well, and what people can do is they can register and let loved ones know that they're okay, they're at a shelter, and that they're in good shape.
It is a tremendous sense of community that comes out, and a sense of caring, and especially all the volunteers that are helping. If people need to get, water, or maybe they don't need the shelter, can they come by to access some of the, essentials that they may need?
We do have water and food at the shelters, and we're ready as soon as the storm passes and it's safe to do so, to make sure that there's additional supplies, whether it's cleanup kits, water, food, different gloves, different things that people might need. So we're here, we're ready, we're prepared. Of course, across the whole eastern seaboard, we pre-position 200 feeding vehicles. That's about 2/3 of our fleet, because we want to make sure that we're here and we're ready to serve the communities.
All right, Donna Marcy from the Red Cross, thank you very much. We'll be checking in with you throughout the day, but we appreciate you joining us at this hour.
It's so great that there are resources there if you do need them. Obviously, there are widespread power outages. We're getting the latest numbers from National Grid. 36,000 people in the dark this morning. NSTAR saying about 14,000 people without power. Cape, Vineyard, New Bedford, really some of the hardest hit areas for NSTAR. We can show you
part of the reasons why. Trees coming down. We've got a picture of one that's come down here in Middleborough. And we have with us on the phone Amy Zurich from National Grid. Where are most of the outages for you? You're in primarily Worcester and Bristol counties with those outages, right?
We actually are seeing an increased number just very recently here, that we are now upwards of 170,000 customers without power across the state, and in New England. So, that includes Massachusetts and Rhode Island and some of New Hampshire, but really the primary outages we are seeing Massachusetts and Rhode Island. So, as you said, a lot of outages in Worcester County. We have, hundreds of crews out there to respond.
How long do you think it's going to take? I mean, it's impossible, and it's very difficult for the crews because we're right in the middle of things.
Right. We're always grateful for the patience of our customers and communities when a storm knocks out their power. But, like I said, we have hundreds of crews that we brought in from as far away as Michigan, Indiana, Mississippi, Florida, Wisconsin, and Ohio to help restore power as quickly as possible.
What's the goal here? I mean, is it basically, is there a time frame you're putting on it, or is it just ride out the storm and then get the crews out when it's safe for them to get out?
Yep, we actually do have crews on the ground right now responding, as quickly as possible. Obviously, our first priority is going to be to the safety of both our customers and our crews. So we are sort of playing it by ear and making sure that when we're sending crews out, that it's safe for everybody.
What's been the biggest challenge of this storm so far? I mean, has it been the whole, how big it is? I mean, this is a massive, massive storm here, size-wise.
Right. Well, I mean, and we're still in the midst of the storm, as you know, and right now, we're just seeing a lot of, as you can imagine, down trees, limbs across power lines, a lot of down lines. So, just getting crews out to those and getting them restored.
All right, Amy Zurich from National Grid, we appreciate you being with us this morning. We'll be checking in with you throughout the day as your crews try to deal with all of the outages. The latest from her, 170,000 customers in the region who are without power at this hour. You're watching expanded coverage of the tropical storm now, Irene, here on News Center 5, here on the Eye Opener.
And we want to remind you, not only here on air, but also online, thebostonchannel.com is another resource for you. If you know someone who doesn't have power, you can also call 211. There's shelters that have been set up across the state. We just heard from the Red Cross. They do have a lot of locations where you could go seek some shelter if you do need it, and just bring the little ones there and maybe get some food, some water. So there is help out there, and a lot of people may need it today.
In some areas, people, they have a well, so they have no water, so they may be going to seek those shelters a little bit later in the day.
But you can see the intensity of this storm, really. This is all the way from Revere down to the south coast, Marion, and out to